Peak is a problem because it's fun. What does Ikea furniture, hot tubs, jealousy, and lack of funding have in common with Peak? Well, buckle in, neighbors, because today we are going to be discussing who made Peak, the new slapstick climbing game that's the closest thing to couch co-op we've had in years. As always, let's rewind the clock at the beginning of any good story. The beginning. The year is 2020, and Aggro Crab releases its very first game, Going Under. It's a roguelike action-adventure with a lot of quirky humor. As an inspiring intern, you are tasked with gaining job experience by none other than battling monsters for failed tech startups. The game did well enough to put Aggro Crab on the map. Suddenly, they weren't just another small Seattle indie. They were the funny crab studio with a knack for sharp writing, weird concepts, and taking shots at real-world nonsense. With the modest success of Going Under, the team starts on its first big future hit, another crab's treasure. The world's crabbiest Souls-like. You embark on an adventure across the polluted ocean because your shell gets stolen. As with Going Under, the game is filled with quirky humor while still offering a fun, satisfying gameplay experience. And the game did well, selling 700,000 copies. Not bad for a small indie studio. And on Game Pass, it pulled in countless more players who never would have touched this indie crab Souls-like otherwise. But here's the thing, it took 3 years to develop another crab's treasure. For anyone working on one project for 3 years, that's a recipe for burnout. The team was fatigued, tired. They had plans for developing
Game 3,
but just didn't have the go-go juice in the tank to embark on another 3-year project. I mean, let's be real. That's like going and getting your degree and then turning around and going, well, on to the next degree in 3 years of my life. It's taxing. But that wasn't the only problem. With success comes a lack of funding. The team thought, and I can't believe they thought this. They thought, with a successful project that they would obtain funding for their next game. Who would think that? Success gives more opportunities? Of course not. The team was surprised to find out that despite the success of another crab's treasure, that they couldn't get anyone to fund
Game 3.
Ironically, they actually did have funding, but the funding partner and Aggro Crab couldn't agree on what Game 3 would really look like. So funding fell through, and no one else was going to step in to provide it. This, per the developers, killed the morale. So with a burned out team and not enough money to fund another 3-year project, another game entered the picture which changed Aggro Crab's thought process. Enter Content Warning. Content Warning comes out in April of 2024 for a whopping $8, and it blows everyone out of the water. Landfall produced a banger that sold over 1 million copies after already giving away 6 million copies. It's basically a first-person co-op horror comedy where you film cursed footage for YouTube clout. The joke is you're less ghost hunters and more internet idiots with cameras. Now here's what a lot of you may not know. Content Warning was made in 4 weeks. That's it, a 1-month game jam project. Aggro Crab looks at Content Warning and goes, what the fustercluck? They produced a better-selling game in a fraction of the time. It didn't take them 3 years, it took them a month. And there is nothing better than jealousy to fuel one's fire. Yes, beautiful jealousy. Luckily, Aggro Crab was friends with the developers over at Landfall, and they were shocked to find out that most of Content Warning was in fact made during a 4-week game jam. For those who don't know, a game jam is basically a hackathon for gamers. You lock yourself in for a weekend or a week, sometimes a month, and just crank out a playable prototype. The point isn't polish, it's just to get locked in and make something playable. It's to give you a start. So Aggro Crab says, let's do that. With the lack of funding and dopamine, a side project would be a great way to get the creative juices flowing again before embarking on another 3-year adventure. And yes, you heard me right. Before I continue, Peak was a side project. It was basically a side quest for Aggro Crab to build up the dopamine, juices to keep going. So Aggro Crab is like, Landfall, you want to do that game jam together? And they were like, totally, let's do it. Now, to give more details on that, the idea of Peak was actually birthed about a year before in a hot tub in Sweden. The concept was a lot more vague then and much closer to an open world survival thingy, but we all quickly got excited about being a group of lost scouts on an island, and the slapstick that can come from that. Now, leading up to the game jam, Landfall was a great mentor for Aggro Crab. Aggro Crab was used to doing these big projects, and they had to be encouraged by Landfall to refine their scope in terms of the core gameplay mechanic. They kept being told to scale it down and find the fun, and to deliver on that. Get the core gameplay loop and deliver hard on that core concept. Aggro Crab wanted it to be a survivalist game, and the island was originally meant to be a lot bigger. But by the wise mentorship of Landfall, they were able to refine their scope into what Peak is today. Climb the damn mountain. So, February of 2025. Yes, February of this year. They embarked on their game jam in an Airbnb in South Korea. In a mere 4 weeks, they had developed the core mechanics and game that is Peak, minus a day for, building Ikea furniture. The whole time was eat, sleep, and build Peak, and sometimes Korean barbecue. After 4 weeks, they had a working concept of Boy Scouts that were stranded on an island and had to climb the mountain to escape. It was going to be Peak. When reflecting on this time, the developers said it was just fun making the game. Lots of laughs and just enjoying that time. Per their words, it's
a lot harder to make fun games if you aren't having any fun doing it.
And a lot of their time spent developing Peak reflected this. They enjoyed the process. After the 4-week game jam, where they developed the core game, they spent time after co-creating with Landfall to fix bugs and other basic things like quality of life items and apparently adding the banana. Now, April 1st, 2025, Landfall teases on Landfall Day, which is April Fool's, Land Crab, a collaboration between Landfall and Aggro Crab. At this point, April of this year, no one really knows Peak is coming out. Fast forward to the week before its release. Aggro Crab releases their first teaser trailer on June 12th, 4 days before it releases. June 14th, the second teaser trailer, 2 days before it releases. And finally, June 16th, Peak is released out into the world. With almost no announcement time, Peak is available for purchase and it sells 100,000 copies in 24 hours. 6 days after release, 1 million copies. 9 days after release, another mill, totaling 2 million copies. At Gamescom, they had announced that Peak had sold 10 million copies. Hoover, damn did they blow it out of the park. Congrats, Land Crab. You just blew up the internet. On a side project. There is so much we can talk about with this, but let's first discuss what's next, at least for Aggro Crab. Remember that game jam in February? Well, they didn't just make one game. Only 3 Aggro Crab devs went to that game jam with Landfall. The rest of the team worked on Crashout Crew.
Or Cock for short.
And they have teased we should hear more about that soon. Sooner than we may realize. And the Mad Lads didn't just stop there. Not only do we have Peak, Crashout Crew, but as their community manager page will say here.
But we didn't stop there. Once those are done, we have a third larger project that we are starting this year. That's right, it's our new Game 3. You can't stop us. We're gonna keep making
games. They're going to keep making games. Is that going under 2? I don't know. But boy, do we have a lot we can discuss. Guys, they made the core game in 4 weeks. The devs really wanted to prevent creep, which is basically like with any project, it's never done. You always are concerned, is it good enough? Will people like it? And you just start adding and adding. Eventually, you just need to say, this is it, and deliver the product. To prevent that, they basically said and agreed that whatever they created in the game jam in Korea would be the game, and the rest of the time would be polish. And good thing they did. Now, I'm not making games right now. I'm making videos to watch on your second screen while you doom scroll. But if I was making games, this would be a major morale booster to me. Just make the game, lock in for a month, and get the game out. And you can drastically scale down the scope of whatever you are trying to make. Keep it simple, keep it fun, find the core mechanic. I'm sure there's somebody watching this video that needed to hear that. Just make the thing. Even if it's not a game that you are working on, but whatever you are trying to create, There's a meme going around the internet right now, and I really agree with it. First, make it exist, then make it better. It will stop the procrastination. Second, look at what can be done in a month. Now, there was about 7 people working on this, but the lesson is still there. When you really focus and just get things done, can you get whatever you are working on done in a month if you thought it was going to take a lot longer? Land Crab booked an Airbnb for a month and got it done. Maybe that's something you really need to do. But remember, they had fun doing it. Never forget to enjoy the process. Heck, that's one reason Silksong took so long. September 4th, baby! So to sum it up, why is peak a problem? Because it's fun. Not fun eventually after a 40-minute tutorial. Not fun, but only if you buy the deluxe battle pass. Just fun. From the second you spawn in, you're already laughing, already panicking, already yelling at your buddy for running off from the group. It's okay. The Scoutmaster will get to him. And that's a problem, because when a tiny Seattle indie studio can embarrass $1 million safe projects by building a hit in a month, mostly, for the cost of your lunch out, the whole industry starts looking kind of silly. And for the 30% of you who somehow got to the end, I would love to see you again. So if you could,
Go, man!